Hey guys, it's Amy. I hope that you're doing well. Let me know how you are in the comments. But welcome back to the channel. And today we are doing my June reads and doing a mid-year check-in. And what that means is going from this first half of the year, just what I've read, have I met my reading goals, and questions like that. And right now, it is my favorite time of the year. I love all the different seasons for different reasons. Just really love this summery time of year. I've got my shell earrings on right now. Definitely love like summer reads, like summer romance reads and pirate books. I love some pirate books. But let's get into what I read in the month of June. So first up, I had a few DNFs. Our book club over on Fable, the Appendix, read The Priory of the Orange Tree in the month of June, but unfortunately, Zach and I just weren't really getting into it, so we ended up DNFing the book. We kind of let the book club get the rest of the month to read, but just throughout the whole month, we just weren't really getting into it, so we DNF'd that. And then I also DNF'd The Hotel Nantucket by Ellen Hilderbrand. I had been suggested reading her books from a few people on TikTok, and I wanted to give it a try, but I just wasn't a huge fan of her writing. I know it might have just been that particular book. I always want to try to give authors at least a couple of chances to convince me, but there was just like a lot of talk of like social media from like a boomer's perspective and just kind of like weird things like that. It just felt like someone like trying to like force new slang, and it felt a little bit forced, and it was just kind of like I just wasn't really getting into it. There were a lot of different characters. It was a little weird to keep track of. So yeah, I DNF'd that. And then I also DNF'd an ARC that I got, which is not the first time I've done that, but I was really disappointed with this one. It is called The Masquerade, and I'll have it up here for you guys, but I was going into this thinking it was kind of historical fiction with some fantasy elements, but it was just like pretty much purely historical fiction. I got like 60 to 70% of the way through, and there wasn't really any magic going on. It's like a West African inspired fantasy, and we were following a female main character who she was pretty much like kidnapped to become this king's wife, and just her like navigating the politics of that environment and everything. And she was originally a blacksmith who in their culture are believed to be witches, and that's about the most magic that there was, is just believing that these people were witches when they actually weren't. So if you get to read the book, it is out now. It came out July 1st, I'm sorry. But if you are interested in a more historical fantasy that is kind of a West African inspired fantasy, it takes place in like the 1500s, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But it was interesting, the premise. It was just like I wasn't getting the fantasy elements that I was looking for. And I'm not the only person that thought that. There was somebody else who is on TikTok and YouTube who I was commenting with, and they said the same thing. So I'm not sure what the miscommunication was on NetGalley, but yeah, I just didn't love that. So those are the ones that I DNF'd. But let's get into the ones that I did finish this June. So first up, we have a YA fantasy, and that is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I've put out a short and a TikTok on kind of a little review of this book, but I really enjoyed this YA fantasy. I gave it 4 stars. It's kind of a fantasy romance that's fast-paced with fairy tale vibes. We are following our female main character, Evangeline, who lost her love, and she prays to a fate, the Prince of Hearts, or Jax as he's known, our male main character, in order to get her love back. And in exchange, she has to give him 3 kisses of his choosing, whenever, wherever. And there's a lot more to that in the story, but this was just such a twisty, really interesting, whimsical kind of world, and I really enjoyed it. There was one scene that was like a little bit weird. That was kind of a spicier kissing scene, if I can describe it that way. So just be aware of that. I tried to make you guys aware of like spice levels and stuff in the books and everything. But for a YA, I thought it was a little much. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the adventure and the magic of the world. I really enjoyed the romantic tension between the characters. And yeah, I think it was just a really fun time. And I've already got the next two books from my library sitting in my living room. So hopefully we'll be able to get to those in the month of July. My next read was The Golden Enclaves by Naomi Novik. This is the third book in her Scholomance series, and I think this was my favorite out of the trilogy, which is a first for me to like the last book the most in a fantasy series. But I gave this 4 stars, and I think the overall series I gave a 4 stars. I think it's a really solid fantasy series that has really interesting magic, but it's not so complex that I feel like a beginner to fantasy couldn't read. So I feel like it would really span most fantasy tastes. If you really like just like high epic fantasy, I don't know how much you would enjoy this, but there still is like really interesting politics, and it is in like a school environment. So if that sounds like your shtick, then you might be interested in this. I really enjoy the various adventures that our MC L had to go on, and really just getting to explore more of the magic of the world. I don't want to give too much away because this is the last book of a series, but I just really loved how we went just a little bit deeper going into the magic and the politics behind the Scholomance, the school, and I just really loved this conclusion to the series. I thought it was a really great conclusion, and I felt very satisfied by it. And I don't know if overall I enjoyed the series as much as other people, but like I said, it's still a really solid fantasy series. So if you like a sassy female main character, you like a high school magic school experience, and a chaotic magic and magic school, there's no teachers, no professors, anything like that. And the school is just kind of morphing and changing in order to teach the kids, and it's really high stakes. There's monsters. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, I would definitely recommend this series. My next read was Wolf Song by T.J. Klune, and I really enjoyed T.J. Klune's House in the Cerulean Sea, so I wanted to give his Green Creek series a try, and this is the first book from that series. I gave this a 3.5 stars. This is a adult, paranormal, queer fantasy romance. Gotta get all those descriptors in there. I enjoyed the beginning of the book. I enjoyed kind of the setup, the premise. I really enjoyed the setting in like Northwest America, Oregon. I really enjoyed our main male character, Ox. He's just very endearing and has just kind of a heartbreaking story, but I really enjoyed kind of the found family aspect that comes up in this book, but he gets kind of mixed up in this family that happen to be werewolves. So it's got a lot of high stakes and adventure, and it is heart-wrenching at the same time. As the magic and lore were introduced, the more we got into the werewolves, I just felt the story get a bit melodramatic for me and definitely spicy for me. I also didn't love the age gap between our love interest, our main character, and his love interest. The main character, Ox, is 23 when he realizes he's in love with his childhood best friend, who is still 17 on the cusp of 18. Nothing physical happens until the youngest character is 18, so it really just kind of really teeters on the line of inappropriate, in my opinion. So just something to be aware of. But yeah, this just kind of gave me like sort of Twilight vibes, but just with werewolves. Sort of CW vibes, if that makes sense. There was just a lot that happened in this book. I wasn't expecting such a huge time span, which was totally fine. I didn't have any problem with it. I just wasn't expecting it to cover so much. But it does cover a lot, and this is a series, so I can only imagine where the rest of the series is going to go. But like I said, I just don't know if paranormal fantasy romance is for me. But I'm glad that I gave this a try. And if you're looking for a paranormal fantasy romance, a queer romance, you're looking for werewolves and drama, I would recommend this. I just don't think it's for me. My next read was The Rom-Commers by Catherine Center. I received this as an audio ARC, and it is out now, so you can go and get it in store. But I gave this 3.5 stars. I thought there was really good chemistry and a really interesting premise. Our female main character is a small-time screenwriter, and she takes care of her disabled dad, but she gets the opportunity to work with a famous screenwriter who's like an action movie screenwriter, but she has to help him write a rom-com movie. But he doesn't believe in love, so she's having to convince him that love is real, and you can only imagine where that goes. So it was fun. It was a little bit cheesy, but I thought it was a really fun time. I didn't love it. There was a moment where the female main character was kind of pressuring the male main character for physical intimacy, and that made me a little bit uncomfortable. So just something to be aware of. But I just thought it was a sweet romance. It was a fun time. And this is a closed door spice book, so there is like discussion of spice, but there aren't any actual spice scenes. So do with that what you will. But yeah, I would recommend it if you're looking for just kind of a fun, lighthearted romance. My next read was probably one of my favorite of the month, and that is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This is an adult romance with a little bit of time travel in there. So our female main character, Clementine, she works in publishing, and she inherits an apartment from her aunt, and the apartment can transport you in time. And she makes a really great connection with a temporary roommate of the partner in the past, but she's wondering if she can find him in the future and also kind of find herself along the way. So this is just a really sweet romance. It's very heartfelt. It does deal with topics of like grief and loss, and it also deals with suicide as well, losing someone to suicide. So just be aware of those triggers. There is some mild spice in this book, but I just thought it was a really sweet story. It's kind of heart-wrenching and heartwarming at the same time, which I think a good romance book does that. I really enjoyed this. I think it definitely lives up to the hype. I gave this 4 stars. So if you're looking for a romance that has a little bit of depth to it and deals with some family issues, has a little bit of time travel, just kind of a sprinkle of everything, I would definitely recommend this. My next read was Artificial Condition by Martha Wells. This is the second book of her Murderbot Diaries. I really enjoy this sci-fi novella series. It is just a lot of fun. And we are continuing with our beloved main character, Murderbot, and he is having to team up with another robot in order to solve a mystery. I gave this 4 stars. This had all the action and intrigue of the first book, and you had Murderbot, who was his funny, awkward self. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to continuing. So if you want a sci-fi that is shorter and maybe a little bit more accessible and digestible, I would definitely recommend the Murderbot series. My last read of the month of June was The Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller. This is a YA pirate fantasy romance. I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I am finally getting into my pirate reads for the summer. If you have seen any previous videos of mine, you might know that I am a sucker for pirates. I put out a short that had some pirate book recommendations, but I am definitely recommending this one. It is just a really easy to read, fun time, and I really enjoyed the female main character. She is just like really cutthroat. But our main character, Alasa, is sent on a mission by her pirate king father to retrieve an ancient secret map. And she allows herself to get captured by her enemies so she can search their ship for the map. This just has tons of action and adventure and romance and a little bit of magic in there. And I just think it is a really solid pirate book. I can't wait to read the rest of the series. I believe there are 2 more books. There's at least the duology and I think another book that's in kind of the same world. But I really enjoyed the writing. It was very easy to read, but it was still like a cutthroat pirate adventure There's definitely like violence in there and everything, so just be aware of that. But I thought it was just a really solid fantasy book, and like I said, I'm thrilled to get into my pirate reads. But yeah, those were all of the books that I read in the month of June. But let's get into this kind of mid-year check-in. So this mid-year check-in is just answering some questions about this first half of the year. How is my reading going? So first up, I've got my reading goals. And my goal for 2024 was to read 70 books. And I have read 62 of those 70 so far. I'm actually kind of shocked. I wasn't sure if I would be able to kind of keep up with that pace. So I read, I think, 70 last year, somewhere around there. So I just wanted to keep it at the same level. It might have been 65 to 70, I don't remember. But I wanted to keep it around the same. So I'm really glad that I'm on the trajectory. So I'm really glad I'm on the path to finishing 70 books this year. And my TBR for 2024, there were 31 books, and so far I have read 10 of those. I am currently working on The Sword of Kaigen, which if you would like to read along with us, our book club, The Appendix, over on the Fable app, started The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wong on July 1st. We didn't start until the 4th, so you have plenty of time to get in and get started if you would like to read along with us. It's just really fun, and there's kind of like chat rooms for each chapter that you can come and discuss with all the rest of the readers. I think we're close to like 30 people in the group, so there's definitely room for more, and we just have a really fun time over there. So if you want to get in on The Sword of Kaigen, I just wanted to give a little plug for our book club. But yes, I have read 10 of the 31 books that were on my TBR for 2024, so I'm doing okay. Hopefully I can get to the rest of at least some of the books. I don't think I'll get to all of them. At least some of the books on my TBR for 2024. My next question is the best book that I've read so far this year, and that would definitely be The Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. That is the second book in her Farseer trilogy, and I absolutely love that trilogy so much, but the second book was just so like hard-hitting, and there was just so much going on in the book, so much political intrigue and action. I just loved it so much. I overall love the trilogy, but that was definitely my favorite book of the year so far. Next is, what is my most anticipated read for the second half of the year? And that would definitely be Somewhere Beyond the Sea by T.J. Klune. This is the sequel to The House in the Cerulean Sea, and I was really hoping to get the arc of it, but I wasn't able to get it on NetGalley, but I am really looking forward to when it comes out. I believe it comes out in October, and I cannot wait. I am so excited. If you have read House in the Cerulean Sea, the title Somewhere Beyond the Sea definitely would stand out to you, and just the title alone makes me so excited about this book. My last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And like I said, I've got this TBR that I need to finish for the year, but stuff always gets added on to that. You know how it is. But ones that I want to read from my TBR are The Will of the Many, Cruel Prince, Ruin and Rising from the Shadow and Bone trilogy, and Mistborn. I want to finally get into some Brandon Sanderson this year. I read his Tress on the Emerald Sea, but I know that is kind of different from his series and everything, so I'm really excited to get into Mistborn. I have Mistborn and The Well of Ascension, I believe is the sequel, on my shelf. But yeah, those are the books that I want to read this second half of the year. So guys, I just wanted to kind of combine my June reading and this kind of mid-year check-in to check in with you guys and let you know where I am with my reading. But let me know if you've read any of the books that I have mentioned. I would love to hear your thoughts on them, and let me know your answers to the questions that I have asked today. I am just really excited about where I am with reading right now. I am just finding a lot of really interesting books. I've been finding more people on YouTube that I find really interesting, and added a ton of pirate books to my TBR, a bunch of high fantasy to my TBR, so I'm really excited about that. But let me know what you're looking forward to and what you read in June. And I would love to chat with you in the comments. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.